Welcome to a very special episode of Modern Cyber with powerful visual elements. So the audio on this one may be a little bit tough, but I am delighted to be at the Museum of Malware Art today, and we're going to get an insider kind of guided tour from Mikko Hypponen. Mikko, thank you for taking the time.
Sure.
First of all, and talk to us about the museum.
Well, thanks for coming over, and you get the curator's tour.
Curator's tour. Awesome.
Yes. This is the Museum of Malware Art. We're in Helsinki. We are in the brand new headquarters for WithSecure, and I am the Chief Research Officer for WithSecure in my day job.
Okay.
But what this is all about is that this is a way of looking at the history, present, and future of cyber attacks and malware through the lens of art.
So was that the original idea, was to use art to kind of make cyber attacks real in people's mind, or what was the inspiration?
It all really starts from the cooperation I started with the Internet Archive 6 years ago.
Okay.
Internet Archive, many of us know archive.org, where we have like archives of old websites and everything else. I know one of the guys there, Jason Scott.
Okay.
He built with his developers an emulator around 6 years ago, so you could actually run old MS-DOS games in browsers on the website, so we could archive old medium. And the emulator was amazing.
Okay.
So we started chatting with Jason whether it would be good enough, compatible enough to actually run old viruses in the browser.
In the emulator?
Yes.
Okay.
So people could actually look at old viruses through the web by running them inside their browsers in a virtual machine, and it actually worked.
Okay.
That led to the beginning of Malware Museum on the Internet Archive, where we've collected a large collection of old viruses.
Yep.
And then, when we started planning this building, the new headquarters for WithSecure, we had plenty of empty space in the lobby, and we were thinking about what to put in here. And someone floated the idea that we should take the old viruses and have an exhibition here. But we didn't just want to dwell in the past.
Yeah.
So we started commissioning completely new pieces of artwork from artists around the world, art inspired by malware, art inspired by cyber attacks.
So was there any connection to the malware running in the emulators?
Yes, and we actually show those as well. So we want to look at the past by looking at the old viruses, but then we want to have completely new art. So this is not a museum, this is an art museum.
Okay.
And this is a great example. This is maybe the most visible piece of the museum. This is called Click for Love, made by two artists, Hugo Lampinen and Kasper Hildén. And this is inspired by the love letter worm outbreak. And you might remember love letter, or I love you.
Melissa virus.
This was before Melissa. Same year, 2000.
Okay.
So back when email worms became the biggest problem we had, love letter would arrive to you in an email where the subject field was, I love you.
Yep.
And then the email said, please see the attached love letter coming from me. And if you would click on the attachment, then you would send the same email to everybody in your Outlook address.
Yeah. This was this wave of Visual Basic viruses, Word macros. You open them up, they scrape your contact list and just send themselves out.
That's exactly what it was. The name of the attachment was loveletterforyou.txt.vbs, Visual Basic Script. So that's exactly what it was. So clearly you needed to click on the attachment with the mouse. The artists were inspired by that. So we crowdsourced 827 mice from our customers and clients around the world. They painted them all pink, and they used this software which calculated the volume of one mouse and used it as a 3D pixel, which gave instructions on how to build a heart out of them. Like, where do you put the holes? How long cables do you need for each mouse? And we end up with this heart. It's a nice symbol.
And it may be a little bit hard to see on the video here, I'm not sure, but it's three-dimensional. So this piece goes back a good 60 centimeters or so.
Yeah. And please don't touch it, because when it gets mangled, it's a bitch to get out.
Okay.
But there's also other thing here that we wanted to accomplish, because we are at the ground level at the headquarters. We have 7 floors here, but there's a lot of traffic outside. There's a big hotel. There's the Verkkokauppa shop out there for electronics. A lot of geeks and nerds walk by. So we light up these art pieces in the evening and hope to attract people coming in, because this is a permanent museum and it's a public museum. We want people to visit and look at the art pieces with commission.
And free entry.
Yes, it's free entry indeed.
At least nobody charged me on my way in, so I'm thankful for that.
And for the opening hours, museumofmalware.art is where you can find it.
All right, good deal. Good deal.
And if this is inspired by the love letter worm, let's pick up the camera and take a look at the love letter for real.
Let's do that. So we're going to get a little bit of motion as we transition from place to place here today.
Take a look at this. This is a collection of old viruses. And if you look at this one right here, that's I Love You from 2000. And it's actually a video of a machine getting infected by the worm for real. So people who weren't around in 2000 to see what it looked like can actually see what it looked like for real when you infect your Windows 90. This is Windows 98 or maybe Windows NT getting infected by the love letter worm. And there's a collection. If you pan around, you will see that we have like different visual examples of what old viruses look like. Some of them with pretty fancy animations or displays that they show to users. And this is the history of malware. This is what they used to look like. They used to be visual. They used to be like playing music or playing games with the user or doing different kinds of tricks, like with the cascade worm, which would activate at the end of the year, during the last 2 months of the year, and would start dropping down the letters on your infected MS-DOS computer to the bottom of the screen. And of course, users couldn't understand what's wrong with their computer. Why are my letters dropping to the bottom of the screen? And we named it Cascade because it sort of looks like Cascade as it happens. So this is the history part. The oldest viruses we showcase here are from 1987, and that's ancient. I've been around forever. I started working in this field in 1991, but I've analyzed all these viruses back then. When I started my reverse engineering career inside Data Fellows at the time, there were so few viruses in existence that I collected them all and I reverse engineered them all just to understand the field. So one of the things that I learned from there is that how to do reverse engineering, and that's basically what led to my career where I am today.
Right. So you're the original virus Pokemon master. Gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch them all. That's what I was doing. And here I have to send greetings to Daniel White, known online as Dano1. For example, this video right here, if you look closely, you'll actually see that you can see the pixels of the CRT screen. This is a real video shot from a real physical infected computer that Daniel recorded for us earlier this year. He has a very popular YouTube channel where he posts videos of old viruses with hundreds of thousands of followers. So clearly, people like old viruses. This particular video showcases the virus creation laboratory from 1992, which was the first virus generator. It's a tool for people who want to write viruses but don't know how to program, so it can automate the work for you.
Right.
And then if we pan a little bit to the left, we have the casino virus, which played a game with the user. The way it worked is that when you got infected, 3 dates of the year, the 15th of January or April or August, when you start up the computer, it's destructive. It overwrites a copy of your file allocation table, which means you've now lost all the information about where your files are.
Right.
But before it overwrites it, it takes a copy in memory. And now it gives you a chance to win your files back. You have 5 credits. You see credits 5, and you can play a game of jackpot. If you get 3 pounds in a row, you win. And it will then write your file allocation table back to your hard drive. You recover your files.
So it actually worked.
It actually works. We tested this. And in fact, when I was recording, I made this video earlier this year. And I had a hard time actually losing the game because, I wanted to get a video of user losing their files. For first 4 runs I did, I won. So it's likely. I think that the chance of winning your files back is fairly high. But sometimes you lose. And when you lose, it simply hangs your computer. And then you've lost automatically because the files have already been overwritten.
So it's interesting. It's a little bit different than what we're hearing about some of the modern ransomware attacks where even companies who pay the ransom don't get their data back.
And speaking about ransom, let's switch to the other side. Follow me. We have more of these old malware samples on this side, and not all of them are old. For example, here's more recent Windows malware, and here we showcase current design and art and branding. When you think about like 2024 attacks, it's mostly ransomware. And many of the ransomware gangs, practically all of them, do branding. They have names, they have logos, like that's the Vice Society group right there. And this is art as well. Not maybe the same kind of art we think when we think about art in general, but clearly someone has designed these, they've hired artists maybe, or created these on Fiverr, or we don't actually know. But we try to record that part of the design process in modern malware as well here in the Museum of Malware Art.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. If you think about all the things that go into an organization or go into a company, definitely branding is one of those things that is pretty important.
Yeah. It's important for criminals as well.
Yeah.
Always be branding, as they say. Some of these viruses were actually loud. They make noises as well. So, for example, here we have the ambulance car virus, which would have a car run across your screen randomly whenever you run an infected program. So you try to launch a game on your MS computer. Before the game launches, an ambulance car runs across the screen, and it would also make this sound, like
yeah,
which we decided to turn off here in the museum because it's irritating very quickly.
I think the audience and I are both thankful for that.
But it's also interesting to think about how the most widespread viruses in this 1990s era didn't actually do anything visual. Like these are the exceptions that showed it.
Yeah.
But many of them still had things that are interesting. So, for example, here we wanted to record the form virus, which was one of the most widespread boot sector floppy infectors in history. It never showed you anything at all, but there is a hidden message inside the boot sector of an infected floppy. You never see this message. It's never shown to anyone. But if you take a hex dump of the boot sector and read it through, you'll find this message where the phone virus sends greetings, and then there's a message to Corinne. We don't know who Corinne is. I'm guessing it's an ex-girlfriend of the author, or maybe something like that.
Right.
So we try to record some of the historical artifacts here, and it's also this is the version 1.0 of the museum. This will be expanding and changing in the future. These are the things we're showcasing right now.
It's interesting on that form virus, by the way. In that message, it says form doesn't destroy data. And that's really changed over time, right?
Yeah, that has, yeah. Of course, today, ransomware is maybe the biggest single malware problem. Not only, maybe another thing which has changed with malware over the years is that these things used to spread. We called them viruses because they would infect your computer
and then spread out.
Every floppy you use got infected, or every program you run got infected. Today, we almost never see viruses anymore. They're more like Trojans.
Right.
Ransomware hits your computer, but it doesn't spread.
Well, don't a lot of them spread across local networks or across a corporate network?
That's the authors, that's the people inside the network, scanning the network and infecting the machines. The malware itself doesn't have spreading functionality, with some exceptions. Like WannaCry ransomware did have spreading functionality. That's why it became such a huge case. But most of the cases we see would be closer to Trojans, worms or viruses.
Got it.
And of course, they are destructive, but they don't destroy files; they encrypt files. So files are recoverable. That's the whole point of it.
Right.
And then we have to remember that cyber problems today they go beyond ransomware. We still find a lot of other cases as well, but it is the most visible.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. What else have we got here in the museum?
Here we have a piece of paintings, or actually AI rendered images of an artist called Brett Linares. Brett is from California. He's an old school security expert, has been around since the 1990s. This art piece is called cyberware, because every single one of these paintings is auto-generated from a malware sample, and the samples here are all used in wars. So every single one of these are actually written by the Russian government and used against Ukraine in the Ukraine war. So, for example, this art piece right here is generated from the In-Destroyer malware, which was the malware which they've used multiple times to cut power in Ukraine. And the way these are generated is fascinating, because Greg has built his own malware art generator. He takes the actual binary of the malware, so an exe of the malware, throws it into his emulator. His emulator extracts functions from the malware code, then uses a custom large language model to create English language descriptions of the functions, and then that description is used in an image generator based on top of stable diffusion, which then takes the images out of them. And then we end up with things like this. We printed these on aluminium. That's why they shine so nicely when light hits them. Right, these are beautiful in the night time. But it was a bit of a challenge getting them printed. We printed these locally here in Finland, and when we were sending the original images for the printing house, I thought we had really nice looking original images, but these were huge. They were 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. The printing house got back to us and said that this is not nearly enough. We need much higher resolution if you want to print with aluminium. So we asked Greg to re-render the images in a higher resolution. These are 12,000 pixels by 12,000 pixels.
So 12K instead of like 4K, 8K?
Something like that. And the images, like the JPEGs, are like 300 megs each.
Okay.
Biggest JPEGs I've seen in my life. But look at the end result. If you come and close up, for example, from here, when the light hits right, these raindrops or lightning things, it is quite amazing.
Yeah, the video may not do it justice here, but I do see the detail in this is really interesting. And are these kind of two-sided printed, so they're visible on the other side as well for people passing by?
On the other side, it has the logos for the Museum of Malware Art.
Okay.
Museum of Malware Art.
Got it. A little bit of branding on the other side.
Always be branding, as they say.
There we go.
And then we have here a work of art, a sculpture called Paraneomorph by Joey Holder from the United Kingdom. Okay. This is inspired by ransomware, wood and bronze. And there's multiple ways Joey was inspired by ransomware attacks, creating this. So clearly we have the spider here symbolizing the attack itself, but Joey chose bronze as the metal to be used in this sculpture. And bronze changes over time. Right now it's nice and shiny, but bronze oxidizes over months and years to come. It's gonna turn green.
Right.
Just like,
Statue of Liberty or any number of statues.
And the symbolic importance here is that, data corrupts over time, changes over time, just like the bronze will change over time. And then another thing I find fascinating is that there's a hidden message. If you look at the top of the message here, there's sort of like hieroglyphs or a sigil, as Joey called it herself, a message she purposefully hid on this sculpture. And interestingly, at the last stage, before she encoded the message into these hieroglyphs, she used a one-way hash function.
Okay.
You know what that means? It means that the message is unrecoverable.
Right.
So there is a message. There's a message hidden in this art piece, but no one can never recover the message. Sort of like if you don't pay the ransom for ransomware, you will never get your files back.
But is that strictly speaking true, or that's theoretically true?
Well, it's true as long as we invent quantum computers.
Right.
With, one-way hash. Actually, I don't think even quantum can solve that. One-way hash loses information on purpose.
Okay.
So it's basically a hash of the original thing. It's unique for the message. We know there's a message. If we know the message, we know the hash matches.
But if we have
no way to recover the message from the hash.
But if we have the same one-way hash algorithm and we're using the same public key going into the one-way hash mechanism, and we have infinite resources to throw at this,
right.
In theory, we could arrive on it over the course of time.
Absolutely, you're right. Just like we can recover passwords, even though they went through one-way hash function, by trying all possible passwords.
All possible
passwords. Try all possible messages, and if you get the same hash function, doable. Very tricky, very unlikely to happen.
Well, you should have gotten the sigil on video there. If you're really interested in a challenge and you've got some resources to throw at it, go for it.
Yes, there's a reward for it if you crack it.
Oh, is there?
Well, I'll get a reward.
Coffee on Mikko is what I'm hearing.
A bottle of gin.
All right, there we go.
All right, very cool. Let's move on to the next part of the museum.
All right, sounds good.
This interactive art piece is called Threadscape, designed by Mikko Hypponen. We've actually used this outside of the museum already in conferences and fairs as an interactive piece. We wanted to, get people to somehow join into the action. So we have a simulation of a network environment, and you can actually take your hand here on top of this cube. The thing is going to detect that there's someone there, and then you can grab this piece of malware from the thin air. And we use the generative AI system to generate every time a different, unique piece of malware with description, name, and an image. And the person who caught the malware, they have a brief moment to actually scan the QR code and download the malware on your phone. Well, safely download the malware. It's not real malware, it's a simulated malware. And now we run out of time and it will disappear and we will never see the same malware again. There's an unlimited amount of these that it's able to generate. And we actually had someone comment about this during the shots, during the opening of the malware museum. Yeah, it's kind of nice. There's an unlimited amount of malware. But wouldn't it be more challenging or interesting if there would be a limited amount, like 100 different, and you could collect them all? And maybe then they can fight each other.
Right.
Which sounds like an interesting idea. We're talking about an idea about bringing this to DevCon and making different versions where you could actually collect them.
All right.
Like Pokemon.
Yeah, Malware Go.
Malware. We'll see.
All right.
If we turn around to this side, here we have music inspired by malware. The old iPod here is playing an LP or an album from a heavy metal band or chip-tuned heavy metal band called Master Boot Record. Master Boot Record is an Italian band and they make a very unique flavor of heavy metal. And of course, Finland is the heavy metal capital
of the world. Yeah.
Everybody loves metal over here. We also are showcasing the album itself. It is a limited edition of the album, which is called Virus.dos, recorded in 2018. So this work wasn't commissioned for the art, but we wanted to showcase it because every song on this album is inspired by one particular MS-DOS virus. And every single one of the tracks is also named after a virus. And if you go to the website of the Museum of Malware.org, there's actually a link, Spotify link to the album, for those of you who are interested to understand what chip-tuned heavy metal sounds like.
I mean, it's a pretty niche market, but I feel like it's exactly, if you drew the Venn diagram of Museum of Malware art visitors and modern cyber listeners, it's going to be a pretty good overlap. So this is probably the Spotify playlist for our audience.
Yes, I recommend it. I've seen the band live twice. It's amazing. The band will actually be visiting the Museum of Malware art in February. We wait for that to happen.
Awesome.
And here on the listening station, there's actually chairs for people to sit down. The chairs have been upholstered in custom fabric, which was designed for us by a fabric designer called Johanna Vierimaa. This is called Ducktail. Ducktail is a piece of malware from Vietnam, which we found here at WithSecure in 2023. It's a family of financially motivated malware. And
so kind of in the info stealer category, looking for banking credentials and things like that.
It's actually stealing Facebook business accounts and other things, which can be used to make money and have been used to make money by this group. And Johanna was inspired about the story. You can actually see a small duck repeat in the fabric. And we've used this fabric in different ways. We've made pocket squares out of it that we sell in the museum shop or gift shop for the museum.
Yep.
And we've made laptop bags, and this is the infamous tankituoli, traditional Finnish design.
Yes.
Upholstered with the same design. So we tried to make different ways, different kinds of art for the Museum of Malware art. So we have sculptures, painting, fabric, music, soundscapes. We're actually not going to be able to take a look at the soundscape, but even the toilets in the museum have a soundscape which has been inspired by phishing attacks and scam messages, which basically means when you go into one of our booths in the toilets, someone is going to start to recommend to you this great investment opportunity in this new cryptocurrency token, or you might be getting a message about a DHL package.
Museum of Malware art coin.
Oh, I love that. Maybe we can make a blockchain.
There we go. Sounds good.
It leads us to the last piece we'll take a look at the Museum of Malware art. So graffiti and malware have, I think, something to do with each other. And when I first ran into malware myself in the early 1990s, I didn't see any art or anything of value in them. I've lately learned to appreciate that there really is artistic features there as well. And I think many people have had the same discovery with graffiti. Like when you see dirty tags on the sides of buildings, they don't look like art at all. But sometimes you see really beautiful graffiti, colorful, clearly artistic.
Yeah.
So here we work together with graffiti artist EGS. He's famous for making really large pieces, typically with spray can. And like many graffiti artists, he always repeats his name. If you look closely, you'll see EGS, 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 repeat over and over again in this piece, which is called Intercontinental, and which was inspired by the blaster worm outbreak of 2003. So when we started the cooperation with EGS, we provided him with material about blaster worm, which was one of the largest internet worm outbreaks in history.
What kind of material did you provide?
Well, when we analyzed the malware in 2003, we reverse engineered the exploit. It was using Windows RPC exploit. It was basically scanning machines on the internet. Whenever it found the machine which was up and running and had this port for RPC open, it would infect it, and then that machine would start scanning the whole internet as well. And when the outbreak started, it started from Asia. So this is actually a world map. We created back then a world map visualization where the malware outbreak started in Asia, infecting machines in Japan and in Australia, because it was daytime. And when the day dawned in Europe, the outbreak moved slowly but surely to different European countries. People wake up, turn on their computer, and it gets infected. And then 4 hours later, we start seeing infections in New Jersey, New York, of course, South America, a little bit before that, and then it goes around the world. And that's what inspired EGS to create this piece, which is actually on stainless steel instead of graffiti. But it's a permanent exhibition of what the outbreak looked like. And once again, we wanted to have it here in our windows so people can see from the inside and also from the outside as we light these up during the evening.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of geographic curiosity with it, but I really like the designs here. I wasn't aware there was kind of a water break between Asia and Europe here in the middle, but
this is artistic freedom.
There we go, artistic interpretation. This is really interesting. What did this malware do?
Blaster didn't do anything else except spread. It showed no messages, it wasn't destructive, but it did create a botnet which could be used to launch denial of service attacks from the machines which were infected. But by and large, it caused problems because of the scale of the spreading. It was far too efficient for its own good. So network systems were congested because it was just generating so much traffic.
So this was effectively a denial of service attack, but on a local network level, as opposed to what we see now with kind of distributed denial of service attacks coming from botnet spread on the internet that largely target, it's impossible to take the internet offline, or I'd say very hard to take the internet offline, but you can take down individual websites. But this was the case where it took down individual corporate networks as a result of the congestion that they experienced.
Many of these early outbreaks had a side effect of denial of service. So for example, Love Letter that we looked at earlier, that created so much email that many email systems crashed. I actually remember it was either Love Letter or Melissa or one of these similar, maybe Sobic, one of these early email worm outbreaks that when we were analyzing it in our labs, and I wanted to send a block list of IP addresses that needed to be shut down by operators to shut down the worm, and I tried sending that list to certain operators in different countries. I couldn't get the email go through because the email systems of the operators were down. Because of the worm. So I actually ended up faxing the list.
Oh my gosh.
Fax still worked.
Fax still worked. I certainly remember going through, Melissa, 2 waves of it at the company that I was at the time. And I think many people had the same experience. You got the infection. You figured out what was going on. You figured out your mitigation method, clear your message transfer agent queues on your Exchange server, wipe out, sometimes you wiped out legitimate email as part of that as well. But then you could at least get email back up and running. But then inevitably somebody was on vacation, would come back a week later, open their email inbox, click the thing, and you were going through the same process once again.
The crazy thing about the Love Letter outbreak that we spoke about earlier was that in 2000, we got it ourselves. One of our employees, we were looking at the art piece, and Kim, who used to work for us already back then in 2000, remembered, I got this. I was working in this company, and I got it in my work email from my girlfriend. And I immediately knew that this is fake. She wouldn't write like this. She wouldn't send a message saying, I love you. But this is the Museum of Malware Art in Helsinki, Finland. Permanent exhibition, public exhibition. This is an invitation to you. Come and visit the Museum of Malware Art.
Awesome. Mikko, thank you so much for the curated tour. It's been a real pleasure.